Okay, so here we are with Lindsay and Jamie. These are the founders and chief operating officers of RVRevivals. They're our guests for today. And for the audience that's going to be watching this, I want them to introduce themselves, what RV Revival is, what businesses, what services they provide. So off to you, Jamie. Lindsay, go ahead.
You go first.
No, you go first.
All right. So RVRevivals, we are specializing in the customization, repair, and upgrading of RVs. We're doing something that's kind of rare in the industry. There's not a lot of competition, which is great, but it's a challenging service to provide. We're coming to it with nearly 30 years of background in general contracting and fabrication and repair work, and got into this business during COVID. We're providing people with interior upgrades and systems upgrades like power systems, solar systems, battery systems, and really just like anything that'll keep an RV on the road and keep people having a good time.
Wonderful. So what if I'm a prospect and if I were to ask you, what are your core business services? What will they be if you want to list them out for me?
First thing you should do with an RV is make sure water's not getting in, right? So we'll oftentimes be starting there. If that is taken care of, then it's making sure the power systems, plumbing systems, all of these things are in good working order. And then what's happening over the years is people either get tired of the interior they have, or they're maybe inheriting an RV or getting a good deal on something, but the interior finish is maybe a little bit like grandma's house and they want to do something custom and personal. And we work on design with them and come up with a lot of ways to improve the RV and really generally improve the RV experience.
Where are you guys based out of? And is RV Revivals a mobile service where you can go to different places, or are you local to San Diego?
So we started RV Revivals in the midst of lockdown during the COVID epidemic, and we were really in the heart of San Diego at the time. We have moved out into the country, but we are still in San Diego County, and we service mostly the San Diego County and Southern California area. And we do offer mobile service too. However, as time has gone on, more and more we're getting clients from further away. So we've had clients from Arizona, Northern California, Canada. We had somebody from BC too.
So the next question I have, which is probably one of the most important ones, how did RV Revivals get started? What's the story?
So when I was on the East Coast, maybe 10 years ago, I was getting into outdoor activities that eventually brought me to California. But while that kind of love and interest was growing in me, I happened to see this documentary called Tiny, and it is about the tiny home. And so people downsizing, right? Moving from their traditional big houses down to something that is, what's a tiny home? 400 square feet or less.
Sure.
Maybe even smaller. So that idea of living bigger with less stuff really appealed to me. So that kind of lit a spark in me that really was moving towards, what can we do with this? Is it just me living in a van and being a dirtbag, or is it something more? And it's developed into something more. And I know you have your own story about how
Origin story.
the love of RVs came into play for you.
How did you start, Jamie? What's your story?
My story. So RVs have always been just something I've been fascinated with. When I was a kid, neighbors would have them. We didn't have one growing up. We had a van that we would take camping, and that was a pretty good time. And my parents would set up a tent. But the RV was just like, wow, that thing has your kitchen and your bathroom, and you could live in there. And it, for me, just kind of seemed like a spaceship that you could teleport to cool places. So as soon as I could, I bought one. And then I've owned 1 up to 10 of them since. I have a tough time resisting owning another one, but I think I'm breaking that bad habit. But
Pop quiz, how many do we own right now?
10.
I'm interested. So you own 10?
We think 8, actually. I'm not sure.
What happens is somebody will be like, here, do you just want this thing? And okay. Or we'll see something, we'll say, wow, we should fix that up and do X with it. We think there's going to be some income resulting from it. There seldom is, but it definitely provides a lot of good content. And we've used the RVs that we own really to cut our teeth in this industry and get a sense of what we could do and how to do it, and then offer a lot of these services to other people. So that's the case with the vintage RV we have. It's a 1956 Airfloat land yacht. I mean, we redid that together, and just about everything we did inside there, we've now been able to offer to other people, and a lot of people have found that. And I think it builds a lot of confidence for folks too. So nothing lost in owning all the RVs, and we need to get rid of a few, but we don't need any more.
Well, that's awesome. If I'm not wrong, there's an RV right behind you, right?
Behind us, this is one of our clients' RVs. It's an Airstream. We're setting it up or helping them set it up to be an Airbnb on their property. And
awesome.
we've got an Airstream like this too. And the vintage Airstreams are pretty fun to work on.
Wonderful.
And
Thank you, guys. That was an excellent answer. What's funny is through the videos, I was able to deduce that that's not Jamie. That is Lindsay. That's not Jamie.
What the hell's going on?
True story.
Either way, I was telling Ayan that I'm used to people calling me Jamie.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes we can use that as part of our strategy.
It's part of our strategy.
Good. You see more strategy. I like it.
A lot of before, but
I was saying a lot of ones before.
probably 10 to every 30 words. So with COVID, we were building restaurants prior, and we had 20 plus employees, and all of our new projects, they just went away in a flash. That nobody wanted to build a restaurant. You couldn't even open the doors of a restaurant. So it was like, this isn't going to work, and we don't want to do it anymore. So what we did is we started 10 different businesses all at the same time. We built a pizza trailer. We had some handyman stuff going on. We were general contracting back again, working in people's homes, and maybe a few other ideas that were just like, let's seed a bunch of different things. And the RV thing popped up. We just had been working on our own, and we'd already started doing it a little bit for a few people. And we said, why don't we just go full on with this? And I think we posted a couple ads.
The pipeline dried up.
We started advertising for the RV services, and it was a minute before we had a long list of leads and opportunities for that. So we jumped in and really haven't looked back. It's definitely not been easy, but it's been rewarding, and it's been really just keeps pulling us to go and pushing us to go forward. So we feel like it aligns for sure.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Based on what I see in the videos, I think it's pretty hard work, to be honest. Out there every day.
Are you just saying, why are they doing this?
No,
We're saying the same thing sometimes, but.
And there are a bunch of funny, cool guys all around you guys. They're also helping. I'm guessing that's part of your team. So it's fun to watch.
And the guys that are around, they're really the future of this business. The concept is, and the strategy is to help build partner companies, essentially. So each of the people that are working alongside us, they have their own business, and they're working as independent contractors. And what I'm providing here in the shop is training on the skills. What we're providing as far as the shop being here is the shared resources, but they're separate business entities. And that's the concept, and that's the growth model. I think that part of leaving behind the construction business was also leaving behind the conventional employment model and really not being in something like that anymore. At least that's the hope, is that we can produce something or continue to put something together with people that are looking for an opportunity for their own growth and their own business and really be their own boss, essentially. And then we just work together to satisfy pretty much limitless demand for the services that we're offering. So we'll always be hands-on, but ultimately what we want to be is growing a network of people that can execute well, and then we'll work together to guarantee the client satisfaction and repeat business. And that's where you'll help us to just make sure people know about that.
100%. I'm on board with that. Lindsay knows. It's perfect. So thank you so much, Jamie, for that response. What's the biggest challenge in renovating RVs as compared to, let's say, renovating homes?
So the biggest challenge is that everything in an RV has to be built and installed, keeping in mind that the RV is going to be in pretty much constant motion. So it's what you've said before, is that there's a constant earthquake. And so if you're building or renovating a home in California, you're thinking about the potential for sometimes earthquakes, but this is an all the time earthquake.
I'd say that's the main thing behind how to go about doing the work. And then really what's sort of next, or what runs parallel to that, is what level of time and quality and material and inputs align with the asset value and where our clients are, as far as I'm going to use this for another year and sell it, but if I just leave this problem, it's going to actually total the vehicle. Versus some people, it's a passion project and they want things to be just perfected and is something that they're striving for. So for us, it's challenging to navigate that and offer something that we believe in. I think over the years, I've started to learn when and how to tell people I could put my hands on that, I could touch that, but with the budget and the parameters that we're setting together, I give you no guarantee. And it's not my favorite thing to say, because I want to make things perfect every time. I think we both do. But the challenge is having some sort of a cutoff on that, because sometimes it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense to spend 300 hours working on something that isn't worth, the total value of the vehicle is worth less than 20 hours. So, and then there's a spectrum on all that. That's probably the hardest part. And then the third hardest part, I'd say, is getting good people and getting them trained and just bringing them up to speed. We're good at finding good people, but anybody who already knows how to do this stuff isn't going to be the right fit. So it's really like ground zero most of the time.
Wow, it's good to know. I would expect these challenges to come up because of the line of business. I didn't know much about it, but then as I started seeing all your content, I was able to identify these challenges. And that's like, I'm not surprised that they exist. It's a very hardworking niche. It's not a conventional sort of business model.
It's not
hard
easy
work.
money.
It's not easy. No.
I've never done easy money. I should. There's been a couple of whales that have come in time to time in my career, but I think kind of a glutton for punishment. So,
Well, not everyone can do that, Jamie. So good for you. Are there any RV renovation trends you see around you? People coming in with a similar request for renovation. They want maybe a color theme, something they want in terms of lighting or anything like that. Do you notice a common trend?
there's two trends there, and they point to two different segments of our business in both, I'd say both equally important. The first trend is on anything that's over 10 years old, the interiors are going to be still within bracket that existed for maybe 20 years. And it was floral patterns, and then it was dark finishes, dark wood and floral patterns. And then it just sort of lived inside that arena. And so a lot of people that either own those or they've bought them because it's a good engine, good drivetrain, good RV. Otherwise, it might be a bumper pull tow or a fifth wheel. But whatever the case, it's a good rig. They'll come and they'll say, can you make this just not that? And that is like what we do is we will bring design concepts for new wall finishes, wallpaper, paint, new cabinets or refacing cabinets or painting cabinets, new flooring and new appliances. It's some basic things that will change the entire look of the interior of an RV. And then some people want to do stuff that's just totally wild, or they'll like interior renovation where layout is changing and there's different functionality. So we'll help with that. And that's not so much a trend, but that's definitely something that sort of follows with that. Another trend that I think that we're seeing or that we've seen is people trying to bring their systems a little bit closer to off-grid capability. On probably about 25% of the rigs that we work on are either going to the local desert or they're people who are in smaller RVs and they're doing boondocking and off-grid camping. And so for that, they've got nothing to plug in. They've got nothing to plug in too. There's no power where they're going. So they need to carry all their own water, and produce their own power. So for them, we're doing battery systems and solar systems, and those will range from a couple $1,000s in upgrades to $50,000 in upgrades for some of the big RVs. So again, two different trends and two different segments of our business. And I think we're kind of doing something, we're offering something unique and unconventional where we're really supporting both of those for people. Usually they'd have to go to 2 or 3 different shops to get that stuff done.
Wow, that's incredible. You want to add something, Lindsay?
I want to add something.
Got something to say.
In terms of the, I guess, a broadly understood term, trend, I think that people are leaning toward simpler look, more minimalist, I would say. I think that has been the trend that we have dealt with the most. So if they're doing interior changes and renovations, really scaling down the color palette, light or white walls, I feel like that has been very common.
We know why people like that.
Because it opens up the space.
It's more inviting, hanging out in it.
And it looks more similar to a Pottery Barn catalog, which is very inviting and comforting to a lot of people. But there's also a big nod toward retro. So even if somebody is going with a more simplistic or a white opened up interior, they're adding this 70s corduroy over here or these 60s light fixtures, especially if they have vintage rig, they're more inclined to give the nod toward a retro look.
The Pottery Barn stuff.
No, I wasn't downing on it at all. Did it come across like that?
Only a touch, because I know we enjoy more. We really enjoy it when we get to be ultra creative and throw in color. So we're always encouraging, you want a little color in here? What about doing this? And people are a little afraid of it. And I think that it's kind of a good lane for us, learning how to language that and how to show people what's possible. And then how to do it in a way where they're just like, oh my God, looks so good. We're so happy with it. It's so fun to be in and show our friends and that kind of a deal. Mm-hmm. But it's sometimes not the move they'd make on their own. And Pottery Barn is safe. And so is Crate and Barrel. They're all safe choices, right?
Yes.
West Elm.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm pretty sure. Well, speaking of creativity, just overall vibrant colors and everything, that brings me to my next question, which could be the most important one. Let's talk about the Tiffany, because I'm excited to know about it. I think everybody who's going to be watching this video is excited to know about Tiffany. We've seen the videos, we've seen the pictures. Let's talk about the Tiffany. What was the project, where it came from, and what about the Burning Man Festival? Because the way I look at it, it was gorgeous. Like the thing you guys did, it was priceless. So let's talk about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was priceless. Like, I mean it.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, it's really fun to work on, and the, the kind of the afterglow or whatever from that, like, is lingering. And it's like, how do we do more of this? And how do we draw in more people who would value that and really can, commission projects like that, or even somewhere sort of in that realm. When the call came in, it seemed and sounded like a lot of calls. We get a lot of calls. We get several calls a day, and there's a lot of people who are like, "Hey, I want $1 million worth of work for $50,000 or something, or scale it accordingly." And it's kind of challenging, and it's sometimes frustrating to really sort of bring people into reality. But when that one came in, it was I'm working. It was a lady, and she said, "I'm working for these folks, and this is what they want." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And then she was persistent, and I said, "And where are you?" And she said, "Well, it's in Palo Alto, and basically Northern California." And I said, "And you're gonna drive this thing all the way down here and have us work on it?" So I thought, all right, this isn't gonna go very far. It doesn't make a ton of sense. And then I asked a question. I said, "Why us?" And she said, "Oh, it's simple. I went through all your social media, and I could pick out the different, like, sort of elements of creativity that nobody else was offering. I talked to a bunch of other people, and nobody does what you guys do." And I said, "All right, I'm listening." And so then we got on a call with them, and we said, this is, we can offer you, like, the infrastructure that you need, the power systems that you need, the upgrades that you need. We upgraded suspension, we upgraded the frame, we did all kinds of things for the drivability and the towability of it. And we obviously did a lot of special stuff at the interior. And when the project was coming together, we said, well, honestly, people aren't asking for us to do stuff like this very often. And nobody's ever asked for anything, this like grand. So we really had a tough time telling them, like, well, it's going to cost this much money, or even, giving any kind of a ballpark. And we had to really just like drive home that we're going to pack in as much as we can in what was a really short period of time, and do our absolute best with your budget. But what's the main goal here? And for them, the main goal was the experience, how well everything works and how it looks when they step in. So, it was a couple, and had the vision for what she wanted and was ready to communicate that to Lindsay. They immediately went into design and design iterations, back and forth, coming up with everything. And I'll let you speak to that more. And Alex, he had, a couple particulars about how we wanted things to go and how we wanted it to work. But he said, we just want this to be amazing. And we said, all right, I think we got clear targets on this. And, 14 hours a day for, all of us for a long time, or whatever it ended up being, was, in a very short amount of time. I think we crammed about 8 months worth of work into 3 months, realistically.
Yeah. So
Incredible.
Say hi real quick, and then you guys are going to go back.
Hi. He's a mini unicorn today.
All right.
So you had said that when the call came in like at the end of May, and then it was a week or so until we received the trailer. So that short time period was really it was like 2.5 months until Burning Man. So the ask was, to have this project ready by this year's Burning Man, which at this point has just passed. So we had until mid-August to do all of these upgrades. And I also feel like when the call came in, the ask was a little bit more like, we're getting this trailer and we want it to kind of be like desert ready, playa ready, dust proof or dust resistant. And off grid, like have good off grid and like self-reliant properties. And the design aspect of it, which is obviously like the most kind of like heavy hitting aspect of the project, sort of came in quietly. It did come in quickly. On our first call, we talked about it. They were like, yeah, we want these things that we talked to you about at first, but we also want the inside to be really like wow factor and sexy. And so there was a lot, that was like opened up in that moment to think about that it's always going to be in motion so that they could have this amazing Burning Man experience. So a lot of, our heart and soul really went into the project, so that we could share that with them in a way.
Yeah. Well, I think we had a strong why during this project, because it gave the two of us an opportunity to really like bring our best skills and our best like backgrounds independent of each other and together, and do something we knew that is going to be hard for anybody else to accomplish. So we're like, okay, this is a big one, and it merited like all of the sacrifices that we had to make. It was a totally unusual summer. I mean, just today I'm like, where did summer go? Is it still coming?
Right.
Because we just worked kind of straight through it, and the kids, my mom says kids are resilient and they'll be fine. But, we felt a little bit, even though they have like this great life and a house with 9 acres and a pool and they're living their best life. But we really did put a lot of work into the project, really reflected for us both. Like, this matches in the biggest way so far. This matches what we want to be doing, which is just really reinventing the RV experience through our design work and through the upgrades that we offer. When people get into an RV and they make their way somewhere, I think if they're really thoughtful in how they curate the locations that they're going to and their itinerary, whatever it might be, I think that it ends up competing with some of the biggest like travel kinds of experiences that you can have, because you're not in the same sort of like tourist trap when you RV. So if you take something off grid and you find a spot and you just sort of create your own landscape, and you're in your vehicle and you push the buttons and get the things to do what they're supposed to do. You put out your awning, you set up your exterior or your deck or your whatever you've got going on, and you get outside, you feel like you're just winning and you're kind of hacking the system. And I think that whenever we know we're a part of making that any better, we feel like, all right, this work really aligns for us. I think that this project was like an example this may be the wrong term, but to kind of bookend, like to go way out to our sort of outer bounds of what that could look like. And for years, we've been looking at what people are doing at Burning Man and like the time investment and the financial investments that people are making in their experience there, and wondering, like, knowing if we can add value there, how do we do that? You can't advertise into Burning Man or at Burning Man or anything like that. But there's a lot of people that are wanting to create or to improve their experience.
What I was saying is when he was talking about, us sort of like outside looking in, to Burning Man, we've been Burning Man curious for years now, because of the sort of like community that it promises, and that people come away from Burning Man talking about oh, this is just like such an amazing thing in my life. And, the way that you sort of like take a monastic vow of self-reliance and like non-transactional, interactions and communication, that really speaks to Jamie and I and what we have been trying to do in our lives and with our business. I think a really life-shaping experience for our kids.
I actually have a few funny shots of you, Jamie. There's this one video I made where you look in the mirror and you start smiling or you start laughing. I actually made it.
I've picked up on how you're using that stuff, and yes. you got my permission, and
I
also
intentionally put that.
Do me right and take out the things that won't make me look good. So
yeah,
or people will question my sanity. Yeah, take those out. Back to Tiffany. I think feels like there's something else I wanted to share about that, because throughout the process we were trying to figure out, how do we really like showcase this, and how do we use this opportunity to try to like communicate or put out a beacon to people who are yearning for an improvement to their RV experience. I think we're definitely looking for, or I think it only lines up for certain people that really have to have the discretionary income to do it and for it to make sense. And it's not that common. But I think what's starting to happen is that we're starting to see that as more and more people like I'd say our biggest challenge is that people don't know about us. And that they don't know that we exist, and they don't know that they can have somebody like us take in a trailer. It could be a 50-year-old trailer, or it could be a 1-year-old trailer, and we can customize the interior. We can create all kinds of unique experiential elements, and we can add all of the latest gadgets and improvements and do it all in basically one shop. So typically what that takes is you've got to take a vehicle to one place that's going to work on, anything on the exterior, another place that's going to work on anything that's on the roof, and another shop is going to work on, the electrical upgrades, and another place might come in and do some upholstery work. And you've got to slot into all these different places and wait for each of these companies to basically bring you through their process. And that could take years. So I think that's just, for a lot of people, they just say, well, that doesn't make sense. I'm not going to try to do that. So I think for us, this one really represented the opportunity to say, whatever you throw at us, we can do it. Doesn't mean we can do it cheap, but whatever you throw at us, we can handle it. And that's what we're offering. That's the niche that we're in. That's why this one was so exciting.
What's your process of working with clients? Walk me through your process. You get a phone call, or you do an outreach to people. How does that work? How is the process working?
It's not overly technical right now or overly formal. I think in the past, with past businesses that we've had together, you can get to a point of really formalizing client intake and have a real static approach to it. Now we'll call all the incoming calls coming to my phone, and I answer and have a conversation with people. And there's some qualifying questions that I'll ask, and that, part of the dialogue is really what do you need? How did you find us? And what's going on for you? First and foremost, I'm trying to treat every call that comes in as a gift. If there's an opportunity to do what we're aiming to do, even if it's just on the phone call, which is to just help people who are RVing to have a better experience, I'll do it. And there's
troubleshoot.
If I can be, sometimes I'm just working and I'm on the phone and I'm talking to folks, and I'm like, well, hey, I tell you what, I'll stay on the phone with you, go over here and, push this button and tell me what happens. Okay. Do this, do that. And they go, oh my God, thank you so much. And, and I say, great, you're welcome. You can write us a review or whatever, just keep our number. So if there's a way for us to offer some insight over the phone and give them some solutions, or tell them an inexpensive way of handling something, or even suggest that there might be somebody who can offer that service and do it well at a lesser rate. I mean, we're trying to really kind of eliminate the projects that don't make sense and really ultimately ensure that we're delivering value. So if somebody's handing us, to them is a whole bunch of money, we want to give them a whole bunch of, service. And we want to make sure that it feels equitable. And so sometimes at that point, or during that initial phone call, I can get to a point where I say, it doesn't really make sense for us to do that for you, but keep our number or try this person. And then other people will have that conversation, and then they'll persist. They'll say, I really, when can you come out, or when can I bring, my RV to you? And I say, okay, well, it seems like you're motivated. And I make sure they understand our rate structure and on our contracts, and we'll send our contract their way, so they've got an opportunity to review it and make sure that we're a good fit. And, by the time we go through a little bit of that, whoever shows up here is usually the right client, the right type of client. That is part of what's essential for this business to work, which is for us to have clear targets. We need to know what we're solving for, what the parameters are, what their needs are, why they're having this work done, and really shape the service around that. So that's that part of the process. Once we're working on it, majority of our work is time and materials, because when we're working on these RVs, we really can't tell people it's going to be exactly this dollar amount. We can do that for certain things, but then there's stuff that's adjacent to that work, or that, that is partially involved in performing that. And it has to be somewhat open-ended. And that's hard for a lot of people, but people who've had work like this done before, and also who value it and realize that there's not a lot of companies who are offering turnkey service like we are. They tend to say I don't love it, but I trust you guys. And I think once we go through a couple of those steps with folks, it usually ends up being a really good fit. I think all the 5-star reviews we have are a result of that process of just making sure that alignment is there. And then at the same time, like I said, helping just about everybody we can in one way or another when they reach out to us, because it is a gift. During the process, so we report back to people what we've done on the RV. We track all of the time and all of the materials. We present that to them. We share it with them so everything's transparent, and we invoice along the way, which keeps everybody really comfortable. It's sort of like, okay, you know where you're at right now, and we know where we're at right now, and everybody's needs are met. And then we want people to be really happy when it's done. So,
and it's just pretty much people look at your reviews, they ask a bunch of questions, and then you onboard them by answering those questions. And Lindsay, you want to add something?
I do want to add something. I think that another part of it is that, it's like, it's just us, so,
yes.
People get on the phone with Jamie, or they interact with me over, email or Facebook or whatever, or they're interacting with our social media. And there is already some familiarity. There's a comfort that's built in, because it's like, this is not like scary corporation. It's just a couple of people. And once we sort of determine, okay, are we doing a mobile service for you? Are we going to come to your place and work on this? Or are you going to bring it to us, which would be like a bigger project? People bring they drive their own RVs or pull their own trailers out here. And they get to see this, they're like, oh, it's like a ranch. And we have, a collection of other cool RVs, that we're working on, they get to see and get excited about, and our kids are running around. So, that's it's part of the thing. It's like a hotel versus a bed and breakfast, right? We have kind of the nuanced, hominess built into our business, which we're lucky.
Your clients I think the clients feel like they're at home when they visit the premise. That's the whole point, right? It's excellent.
Yes.
So when Lindsay and I met and got to know each other, there was a void in the business that I had at the time, and it was really kind of real time, close to the heart of a project design. So I was doing restaurants at the time, and with the restaurants and retail and stores in the mall and things like that. But every once in a while, we'd have opportunities to help small business owners make subtle improvements to their interiors. And there were design companies that I had worked with who, if I said, hey, can you help out with something like this? It really wasn't part of their modality. They didn't know how to maybe take a look at something and say well, what if you just, kind of adjust this over here and add some color over here and, hang some paintings over in this section or just do something to kind of change the look. And when I got to know Lindsay, and this was, during dating and everything, I invited her to take a look at some of these things. She said, I've never really worked on that. And I said, it doesn't matter. You can do this. I already know you can do this. I have a sense. And so I think that was sort of the origin of us working together and figuring out how to kind of pull from each other's strengths. And we did a lot of projects together ever since. We've been doing projects together since we met. And our business, this business is naturally one massive project. Our kids are an even bigger project. But that's the whole concept. And that's really at the core of our lives and our shared philosophy and values around being in purposeful projects. I think that for us, it's a real source of joy, and it's a way for us to always feel whole when we are putting out that creative energy, and also doing everything from the creative side to the full manifestation of it. So we're doing it together, and we're doing it in proximity of our kids, and having them be witness to it and engaging them in it wherever we possibly can. And as they get a little bit older and more mature, we hope to do more of that. But I think the big why is having our lifestyle, our personal lives and our business lives and everything be what's the right word for it? Equanimity. That's the word.
Uh,
But I think that, you know, life in general can be really fragmented. You know, you're one person when you go to work, you know, and then you're another person when you come home, one person to your spouse, and you're another person to these other people, and you're maybe someone different to your kids than you are. And I've always been in conflict with that, and really like yearn for a way to sort of pull it all together. And I think, like, you know, if we went back 100 years or something, you know, that would probably was a lot easier back then. So, you know, if we can work and live and have our kids be in the same environment, great. You know, there's challenges with that too, because it's so unconventional that you know, it's not favorable from the like standpoint of like real estate and, you know, where you're supposed to do this and everything else. But, you know, it's worthy of the challenge.
Background is in sewing and fashion design, actually, is what I received my bachelor's degree in. And I, you know, Jamie and I are both makers, you know, and so I was very excited to study toward that degree and to earn that degree. And then, you know, right out of college, it's like, okay, where can I apply where I can start making stuff? And there was just like a huge roadblock there, because all of the options seemed sort of, well, they definitely seemed like not in the realm of sustainability. Like if we're talking about, like global sustainability and like doing more good than you're doing harm. And, you know, even though I really appreciate and enjoy like expressing myself through clothing and appreciate and enjoy other people doing that, it is kind of like this like lifelong game of like how much can you get? And there was just something that was at odds with me and who I am about like going into that industry and having that where my energy went. So, you know, I didn't do anything with my sewing or with my, you know, human ecology degree for a long time. And when I did again, you know, Jamie was involved, because I was teaching his daughter some sewing techniques, and she was 11 at the time, and she's 21 now. So it was 10 years ago.
Was it 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Time flies.
Don't timestamp us.
Yeah.
Get depressed.
But, you know, since then there have, you know, been some opportunities for me to learn upholstery and to put my skills to use in that way. And now it's not uncommon for upholstery needs to come up with our RV clients, you know, something that's in an older RV that needs to be repaired or replaced. You know, I can do that. Or if they need to put a bed in here and nothing exists, you know, Jamie can design and build the base, and I can design and build, you know, the mattress or the couch cushions or whatever is going to go there. It's just a really exciting use of that skill, you know, that I never would have foreseen. But, you know, it's a big part of it. It's a big part of it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, two things. I guess one of the biggest differences between this work and what I was doing previously, which was construction and primarily commercial construction, there was still the same sense of satisfaction of like building something and having it be, you know, just like an empty building and then become, you know, whatever was envisioned. And all the challenges along the way. That's like oxygen to me. And that's always been the case. I've never been able to do any kind of work that didn't have that, like something coming from nothing. But I learned about, I think the book is actually called Happy Money. I learned about the difference between like attachment that people have or how they're relating to money that they're spending. And there's a huge difference between all of the work that I was doing previously and that we were doing together in construction and the work in the RV industry. With the RVs, with the exception of when people are having us fix something that was like a surprise or they didn't intend to need repairs or have to spend the money on, most of the work, I'd say more than 75%, is really attached to people being like it's part of their hope fund. You know, they're spending this money and they're really excited about their next trip and they're excited about the enhancements, and you can feel it when they pay us. They're happy to give it to us, versus it being like, you know, here's your money and you know, sure, the value, it could have had that guy come in and do it for half the price, but you know, here you go, you know. And that in construction is just really sort of the general overarching theme is it's like questionable value. Everyone thinks they're getting ripped off. Everyone typically kind of is in some ways. But in this, it's a little bit more, it's a little bit more pure, it's more intimate, and it's attached to something like that feels really good for people, which is, I think, just like that hope of like getting away. So maybe they're working in an office and we're working on their RV and they're just like, that's going to be so amazing, when it's done and I get to go on that next trip. And we feel that. I really enjoy that aspect of it. One of the things that like in our path forward, one of the things that we're really excited about that this business is delivering 9 times out of 10 is the friendships that we're making with people and the expanded network of people that know what we're doing beyond just working on RVs or working on their RVs. So we've got, some of our early clients have now become just really close friends that we're traveling with and, spending a lot of time together. And I think for us, because we're getting to be more self-expressed through this business, it's exciting to think about the clients and friends that we haven't even met yet. And how we might be able to change their lives and they may be able to change ours. Feeling closer to being like the person that I want to be and the father that I want to be through that. Contrast that to having a job that maybe I don't feel really connected with, and Lindsay having a job like that and really a more fragmented life. I think that this is just a remarkable opportunity for us to be more authentic. And I was just talking about how we're getting to meet so many cool people and they're becoming our friends. And I'm looking forward to the friends we haven't even met yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.